Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We can't go out, man, forget my peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Does anyone else feel badly for the Orlando Magic just as an existing thing that gets drubbed by South Florida again and again and again? You come into the league at the same time. The best and most famous thing to happen to you is Shaq leaving you so he could win championships somewhere else. And last night, a Miami Heat team that isn't even healthy because they've been healthy for like 7 of 27 games goes into Orlando. And this is the best Orlando. This is the most relevant Orlando team we've seen in how long? 10 years?
At least. They're actually really good. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they have a bunch of young players who have been great so far this season.
Young team, exciting team, but there's never been anything in this market, South Florida, that has taken defeat after defeat the way the Orlando Magic have, correct? There's nothing. It's not the Jets. It's not like what it. I can't even be considered a rivalry. When they came into the league together, the Orlando Magic was hell-bent on trying to create a rivalry with Miami. I guess I should point out, since Mike Ryan is deadpanning here, that all of the boys here are doing Anchorman today. They are.
How does that make you feel? 4 of us in costume. I can see that table moving.
The 4 of you in costume as an ensemble it moves me, not below the waist, but it moves me just generally because Meadowlark succeeded in doing something in unison and harmony. I learned when I got in here today. I saw Master Tesfatzian outside, and he was explaining to me that he got everything right on his Cowboys preview with Tony. And I'm like, what Cowboys preview with Tony? And then it was explained to me that Tony did something with Master. Master got everything right about the Cowboys, but then Tony went to Greece, and it never aired. And so Master's totally correct prediction on the Cowboys. And then Lewis was around Tony, so Tony's like, I went to Greece. I don't know what happened. And Lewis just said, yeah, my bad. That one's on me.
Yeah, I owe Master a public apology because we did Tony's NFL road trip before the season, and we had like 15 or 20 interviews with different people across the why is it?
We did Tony's NFL road trip, but you excluded America's team?
No, I didn't exclude America's team. I did America's team.
He just did it for him, is what it sounds like. It never saw the light of day. He
so
just wanted to talk to everyone.
This is why I need to publicly apologize to Master because I haven't seen Master since that day. And he's like, bro, what happened? And I'm like, to be honest, dude, I went on a 19-day vacation. Well, I let it up to the powers that be that control the YouTube, and then it didn't get put up. So, different time zones. I'm across the world, Dan. Like, you know how it is.
Billy, why are you laughing?
Let's release it today.
I want to release it today.
If it's all right, let's release it today. If it's all still relevant.
I'm going to. I'm already talking to Lewis. We're putting it up today.
I just don't understand your defensive. I went on vacation for 19 days. Not my problem.
Not my problem, but I gave instructions. Hey, release these first 7 this day. Release these these last 7 this day, and then it didn't happen. So what am I going to do? Punch people? But be upset? Like, it is what it is.
You're not in an instruction-giving position.
Okay, so what? I need to talk to you so you can tell somebody else to do it. Who you want me to talk to? Bimmel? Who do you want me to tell
Someone,
to put stuff
obviously
up?
It didn't work.
You want me to
out.
tell Dan? You want me to bother Dan in this very precious time to be like, Dan, can you tell somebody to do the please?
But who did you? I don't understand how the hierarchy works here.
It seems like Tony thinks he's at the top of the hierarchy, and he just walks around giving people orders, and they're just like, it's Tony, and then things just don't happen.
That seems to be a flawed business model, I would say, in terms of getting content done and made. I don't know why Billy and Mike are laughing so much. I feel like he's their protege as a producer.
He's not.
What do you mean he's not? He's learning from you guys how to produce a show.
He doesn't learn. He's incapable.
I rate him.
Thank you, Mike.
Lucy is learning something that I had underestimated here as someone who has lived in South Florida his entire life. I had never given much consideration, given that I went to the University of Miami, and that's one of the few places where I had to actively go about getting into the discomfort of trying to make friends. This is a very difficult city for Lucy, for Jessica, for anybody who doesn't live here all their lives to move to and then make friends. And Lucy's as happy as I've seen her because this week she imported friendship from someplace else, and then she went to Fort Lauderdale to go have shared happiness with a friend. She has rented a dog in search of companionship and friendship. I appreciate, Lucy, that you are aggressively trying to shake it up. But Lucy, who I view as generally not necessarily jubilant, but pretty close to effervescent, is wandering around Miami, and friendship is a problem. So Jessica is her closest friend. They get to spend time together, but you've imported a friend. And how did that feel this week, Lucy?
Well, I was happy, and we went to Fort Lauderdale. We did like touristy stuff. It was worth it. I would drive to West Palm for her. It was all the way. All the
highest
way for
compliment.
Shannon.
That's too far.
No.
Highest compliment.
You guys also have to remember I only have one friend here. Yeah, it's 62 miles.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. It's way further than that. It's like 500 miles.
Well, I would do it for Shannon, and I had so much fun, and it was so great to get to see a friend. And now she's gone, and I'm not happy anymore, and I'm sad. But that's all right, because I don't know.
You got a friendship hangover, and you sound like you're having trouble with your feelings. You sort of petered out there with, I don't know what's happening with me. I went from very happy to very sad, and now I'm just back in Miami and not necessarily friendless because Jessica exists, but having trouble with friendships.
Yeah, well, Shannon is a friend that I met living in LA, and I actually met her on Bumble BFF, which I have talked about before. It's my friendship app, where it's like a dating app, and you swipe to meet friends. I'm going to have to get back on Bumble BFF once the new year starts because that's my New Year's resolution. I got to make friends.
Well, let's talk about New Year's resolutions for a second because I had never heard, and Billy was fascinated by this before the show. Lucy admitted to Billy and others that she was the only child in her neighborhood and her upbringing whose parents had created a New Year's Eve fairy.
They didn't create her. She's real. The New Year's fairy would visit me every New Year's Eve, and I've never met anyone else who had the New Year's fairy come to their house. So every New Year's Eve, we would leave our shoes outside our bedroom, and the New Year's fairy would come and fill them with candy. And then you wake up New Year's Day and you'd have candy in your shoes, and it was awesome. So Christmas, I would ask for boots so that I could get more candy.
Oh, that's smart, Dan. That is
Beat
a
the
heady
system.
play.
That's clever.
Sounds like Three Kings Day down here where you leave out your
Los
shoes.
Reyes Mago.
So that's what that is like. But so when do you guys do that?
Well, so have you...
December
January?
6th, right?
Yes, it's the first.
Well, January 6th is Three Kings. Well,
that's
Also something else.
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Yeah,
We had it
that's true.
first. We had it first.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Have you ever met anyone else that knows about the New Year's fairy?
Never.
Oh.
Just us, which is sad. I thought it was a divorced kids thing. No, it's not. We were the only family. So I would ask people about it, and then no one else had the New Year's fairy. So now that I have a platform, I was like, maybe someone else out there, the New Year's fairy would come to their house too. But it
I've
sounds
never
like it was
heard of
something
this.
that we just
This is
ripped
something
off.
I've gone the entire life. I've been introduced to all manner of fictitious characters.
What do you mean fictitious?
Well, I still feel guilt about the note that I wrote to the Easter Bunny many years ago because I insisted on the most candy in the neighborhood, not surprising from the fat kid. I was 38 years old.
What'd you do yesterday?
We don't need to relive yesterday. It went very bad.
I wouldn't say very bad. It was okay.
Look, man, I'm sorry that there are people in our audience who have kids and need to keep up illusions around kids.
No.
Illusions of what?
The
Stop
New Year's fairy sounds real. Did the New Year's fairy visit you at both your parents' house?
No, just my dad's
Oh.
house. So I don't really know what that's about. But I actively believe, still do, in the New Year's Fairy. And so I was hoping that someone else would have.
Are you going to see your dad on New Year's Eve? Like, is the New Year's Fairy still going to visit?
No, I'm going to be in LA. I think the New Year's Fairy just goes to Advance, North Carolina. I think that's
Put
her
it on
only
the poll,
spot.
Juju, at Le Batard Show. Have you heard of anyone having a relationship with a New Year's Eve fairy?
You know who doesn't get a good rap? Los Reyes Mago. Why do we not know their names? They've just a Reyes Mago. That's it.
No, Baltasar is one of them.
Okay, keep going. We got 2 more.
Well, they brought frankincense and myrrh. I know
gold.
that.
Yeah.
And gold.
Now you're doing the things that you know.
Exactly. We
not
don't
the
know their
things that you
names.
don't
They
know.
visited baby Jesus.
There's so many things that translate from that time, in biblical history over to now. We know a lot of people's names,
I think
except like 3
Donatello
kings.
was one of them.
No.
Michelangelo.
No.
Raphael.
But I want
No.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Again, see, they keep going.
Yeah, Lucy, I've never heard of this, and I do like that you're associating it with divorce. I got to thinking about something here the other day. I saw that Mike Lombardi and others, this is what we do when a team wins and we don't expect it to win. We find magic in the coach producing the unexpected result. And I read an article about Pete Carroll, who I associate with positivity, but something that I don't generally associate with professional sports. They were talking about Pete Carroll, that where he goes, he brings love with him. Love. And it sounds beautiful. And I want to believe it. I believe that Pete Carroll, as a boss, seems like a loving, positive man that I would want as an ally.
You don't want someone that publicly looks like a loving person because deep down they're pieces of shit usually. Whoa. Yeah, there's skeletons in that closet. I'm telling you right now, you don't want that. And Pete Carroll, I don't want to be that guy. You look terrible in a backwards hat. Put that on the right way.
I did not like the hat look.
Looked weird.
It was odd.
Yeah, because it was also like a snapback one with a strap, so the hair was coming through the front. He looked just totally disheveled. There's something going on there. He's not that happy. It's impossible.
Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but Pete Carroll had a couple of opportunities in the NFL, and despite putting up seasons that might suggest that he would be brought back, he missed out and got fired a couple of times. Wasn't the book on him that he was too kind? That he was not tough enough?
I want to answer your question, but I have been sort of taken aback by the aggressiveness of Billy saying the following. Put it on the poll, Juju. Do you agree with Billy? Because I'm going to put his name on it. Do you agree with Billy that Pete Carroll seems like a not happy piece of shit? Because I don't
What were my words? Let me make sure that we said that the right
don't
way.
put that on the poll.
That's how you said it.
What did I say?
That's how you said it.
Have this be one of those that Dan just says. And
I didn't
you're
say
clear
him
about.
specifically. I said
did.
people that seemed that happy. There was not specific to him. I would never. Not Coach Carroll. Not my Coach Carroll.
You say he's not happy, and I don't know how you arrive at piece of shit. People who are nice or serene or balanced or have found something in life. I would say that Pete Carroll seems to carry himself as a man. I heard this said the other day because he seems to carry himself with a lot of positivity and a lot of love. But I heard a CEO say the following the other day, break down what his job was, and called a third of it or more bad news. Like what the job is of being the top guy is I got to go around and more than a third of the time what I'm doing is delivering shit news. Like it's not the job that you think it is of I'm all powerful and therefore I get the happiness. That job is a total misery. Most of the people coaching seem like a misery, wandering through the gray to work like Belichick. Pete Carroll doesn't seem like a misery. Seems like he really loves it, not just on Sundays, not just practice. Seems like he wanders around life. He's got a bit of the Henry Winkler vibe of just being happy, being a happy person, and that being contagious.
And finding a way to be uber successful in ways that coaches on the gridiron, he doesn't fit that personality type. But when you stack up his resume, being a guy that won it in college and in the pros, it's almost as good as anyone's when you look at the sport generally.
But can we talk about the idea of love in that workplace, please? Like, let's explore that for a second. The idea of, can it be? Is it possible? I know we like to associate it with coaching all the time, youth coaching all the time. Sometimes we do it with college and high school coaches when that's not why the coaches are in it. they're in it to compete and they're in it to win. And sometimes it's to raise good young men, but sometimes that's just an umbrella camouflage for, I kind of want to make a lot of money, win, and have a lot of power and be a famous person in football. Love in professional football. Possible from a coach?
Yeah.
I think Mike McDaniel has been a good example of someone who seemingly, according to Tua, has injected a lot of love into his life, and that level of confidence has helped not only obviously schematically with what he's done in building a great offense around him, but really just sort of injecting him with that type of positivity and confidence. And you hear the way through Hard Knocks and all these other NFL Films clips, the way that they speak to each other like they're friends. That's the first example that I've seen where it's not just like jovial Pete Carroll. It's a genuine connection between people at that level.
This is what Jay Glazer is talking about in terms of the seismic generational shift in leadership in that sport, that you cannot connect with young people if you're lording over them as their boss. They have to feel like you're there to help, that you're on their side, that whatever the discipline is to make them better, not to make the coach's job easier.
I think it's what's helped Pete Carroll get to the point where he's the oldest head coach in the league, because what was held against him in the 80s and 90s is now kind of in line with where coaching went, just based off of what Jay Glazer said. We're moving away from the Bill Belichick archetype, and we're moving more towards the Dick Vermeil, Pete Carroll, more sensible, more sensitive type of personality manager.
I like this look that you have on today as your character, insider who takes days off from his prestigious
I was working yesterday.
executive job in order to simply follow the trades and the sheets and the information highway that brings you all of the recruiting classes that you want. I know Lucy and Jessica in this portal, in the signing day portal with you?
I can't speak for them, but I thought it hijacked yesterday's news cycle. I love early signing day, and it's horrible. I have immense respect for the people that actually cover this and make a living in it, because I don't think there's a more difficult assignment in all of sports, chasing around 17 and 18-year-olds as they can't make up their mind from day to day.
Who's the best now? It used to be Tom Lemming and Joel Bucksbaum. Who's the best now in terms of information insider, chasing high schoolers around to find out who's got a top 5 class? And it's the usual suspects, right? It's Alabama, it's Ohio State, and now Miami is in the top 5, correct?
Yeah, Miami's number 3 presently. It's the first time since 2002, 2003 that they've had consecutive top 10 recruiting classes. So that's really good. These companies like On3 and 247, I think the best at it are the regional guys that are just over. Gabby Urrutia does a great job down here locally, but they feed to their network of 247, and that's how guys like Andrew Ivins get all these scoops, even though they're plugged in their own right. But I think the best at it are the guys on a specific beat.
Have you noticed that Mike has a tell when he's trying to be modest but also say something positive about Miami? Not that you're wrong. Like they did very well yesterday recruiting, but he's got a tell. He'll like kind of go like this, kind of cover his mouth. Like normally people do that when they're lying, but Mike does it when he's trying to say something that he knows we might jump on because it was like pro Miami Hurricanes. Yeah. He does it every time.
I do change my posture.
He's like, they have the number 3 class.
Well, he's self-conscious about being buried as a homer because, among other things, people listening to this do not want to hear about a top 3 recruiting class on a Thursday in December.
I'm really happy Miami has a reason to be happy in December.
Mike, we talked about this yesterday while you were gone, so we might as well bring it to your attention. We're a little worried for you and your proximity to and that you may be UM's Connor Stallions. Yep. Like, we feel like you might be the fall guy if something goes on, so just tread lightly.
I think we all know who the fall guy is going to be. It's someone that hasn't been around the program in 2 years.
Well,
same surname.
The fall guy always doesn't know they're going to be the fall guy, so we're worried that like they're bringing you in close, and this is how it happens.
I think this is the rare occasion where everyone knows who the fall guy is going to be.
Have they gotten your text messages yet, though? That's what I'm worried about.
Put it on the
I have started as a hobby repairing old vacuums.
It's a good question that Billy asked. Put it on the poll, Juju, please. Does the fall guy ever know that he's the fall guy?
We know. We know with this case.
Well, that's what the fall guy would say.
It is. The fall guy,
is it?
The fall guy always thinks somebody else is going to be the fall guy.
I'm
fall guy-
definitely not the fall guy.
But the fall guy's
That's
not.
exactly what
the
a fall guy would
is
say.
not
Definitely not the
self-aware.
fall
I
guy.
don't think of the fall. You get bamboozled, you get cornered, and then the fall guy looks up and he's in jail, and he's like, "How did that happen?"
The
I
fall
never
guy's the
saw
guy
that
in the
coming."
room that when the authorities come is like looking like, yeah, I can't. And then the hands are behind the fall guy's back and he's walked out. He's like, what? All the people are over there.
Sounds like you guys had a lot of fun yesterday. I'm sad I missed it.
We're
It's
just worried is the thing.
It's Johnny Depp and Blow
Yeah.
sitting at the table when everyone else is in on it, and he and everyone else.
He's got the little belly,
but
too.
He was so happy just seconds before, not knowing he was the fall guy. Just seconds before, was as happy as he'd been. He made it back in the game. And it'll probably be, yes, you're correct, John Ruiz as quietly, after making a lot of noise as a billionaire, and then all of the headlines after that being some form of that money's not real, it's not in any way real.
Even though it was real and stood up to compliance, and not just with the NCAA, but also the SEC and not the conference. So, like, inevitably, there will be an article written in a couple of years, and I'll have to remind everybody, like I'm telling you right now, Guy hasn't really been involved in the last 2 years. And in the last 2 years, Miami has found a way to have consecutive top 10 recruiting classes.
You look a little Paul McCartney-ish.
I do. It's the wig. I had to steal Jeremy's wig because the Ron Burgundy costume did not have a wig that came with it. And, I mean, we got by with Jeremy because Brian Fantana famously has sideburns and a Fu Manchu.
Yeah, I got a haircut.
And if you had that wig, you'd be a little George Harrison-y, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. We could have. There's another punishment that was supposed to be people dressing as the Beatles, so we probably could just tweak these and make that work, somewhere down the line.
Dan would love that so much.
God, I can see the wood.
One of the things
Norwegian would.
that I appreciate, it's a deep cut. One of the things that I appreciate about the costume that you're wearing, not just because I have a kink that's now out in the open about how much I enjoy the costumes, is that you're saving the company money by wearing a jacket that still has the tags on it.
Yeah, it's tucked in.
Which,
that was not for air.
Amazon, look away.
Yeah, that was not for air.
I know, but I do it too.
Also, you can tell by my posture how deeply uncomfortable I am with it because I presently feel like I'm in a sausage casing. Yeah. If I yawn, my whole outfit would just explode.
It's too tight.
Yeah, it's very tight.
Are you feeling self-conscious beyond having the number 3 recruiting class in the?
I feel great about that.
In the country, but are you feeling self-conscious because physically? Look at Tony back there. Tony right there. That character has never looked that suave.
Whammy!
I mean, Tony looks sultry. He looks steamy back there.
Tony's had a glow up.
Dan, the key is to have the hat, right? You can't wear like a square like on your head like this. The hat has to be on a bit of a tilt. So when somebody looks your way, like just look at me right now. Ma'am? You kind of hit one of those? You got only one eye showing so they can see, but it's all about the tilt of the hat.
No, this reminds me of when we were in Austin for South by Southwest, and Tony just walked around for 3 days and just went sheriff to anyone who would look at him.
Just had one in Texas.
Tipping his cap. Billy, your relationship with Tony is a complicated one. You usually lord over him. You've been here longer. You feel generally stronger than him. But when it comes to pulling off suave and style, I feel like you look at Tony with something that resembles disgust. Because I feel like he pulls it off, but I don't feel like you think he's pulling it off.
No, I complimented him on the outfit today. I said it was a good look, and I told him that he looks like a Mexican pop star that could win El Premio de lo Nuestro.
Gracias.
Yeah. Like, I could see him on Despierta America, like, singing his, like, latest hit, and he just does, like, a dance. You know what I mean?
I kind of do like a...
Yeah.
Handshake with
Or you do, like,
Gordo
a, like,
Flaca.
Yeah, but Billy, you don't carry yourself with that kind of confident grace about about your style.
Yeah, I don't care what people think about the way that I look or dress. It's fine. I'm married. I gave up.
I'm married, too.
You'll get there.
I won't.
How long does it take?
I do. That's it. It's done. I did. As soon as I do, I did, and it's done.
Well, you have to do the classes first, and then you got to do the wedding. It takes a little bit of time.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Did you give up so thoroughly that your marital vows should have been, I did? I hope that Jessica and Lucy enjoyed the Ryan Day presser. So close, Ryan Day. So close to a wildly successful season by any reasonable standard. But you lose at the end against Michigan, and now they get the glory and the shame of having to play Alabama in a way that is going to hurt. But we'll get to that Ryan Day presser in a second. First thing I wanted to put in front of you guys, though, is what Guy Fieri is saying about his inheritance, his money, and his kids. And he quotes Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal has said to his kids, "You're not rich, I'm rich." And Guy Fieri is of a similar mindset where he says, quoting Shaq, if you want this cheese, you got to get 2 degrees. And in 2 degrees, he means postgraduate. He says, quote, I've told them the same thing my dad told me. My dad says, when I die, you can expect that I'm going to die broke and you're going to be paying for the funeral. I told my boys, none of this that I've been building, are you going to get unless you come and take it from me.
Legend.
Sounds like Greg Cody.
What is that?
That's good parenting. I like that. It's issuing a challenge to your children. I like that. I don't mind it. I'm sure they'll end up getting their nut.
Hell yeah.
But, just challenge them a little bit. That's a good job. I mean, they're in this bubble, right? They've lived a life of privilege, and you might as well, try to institute some kind of blue-collar work ethic there. I like that.
Isn't this akin to something that, I don't know if your guys' parents ever said this to you, but mine used to say this to me, like, this isn't your house, this is my house. Yeah. You don't own anything in this house. I do. And I'd be like, okay, just wanted to go out and see a movie with my friends.
Yeah, coming from Exiles, the visuals I have that I most remember of my childhood are my father standing over the checkbook as my mom filled anything out and reminding us at every turn, who do you think's paying for all of this? But I do have a lot of friends who have money or have had success, and they do worry that they make their children soft, like they don't know where the line is. I think there's a line between I'm going to give my children too much and you're going to pay for my funeral. I'm Guy Fieri. I'm going broke taking care of me. You don't have anything. There's probably a line somewhere between those two things.
How about just parent your kid? How about just teach them morals and values while still having money? Make them so that they're never wanting, but that they're also, never needing. You could be in a place where you parent your child to be able to have, respect for money, even if they have a lot of it. I don't understand. Instead of threatening your kid.
Jeremy, but you also didn't grow up with $175 million access to a family. So it's very easy to say that from your perspective, like, yeah, just parent your kids. But when you're the person with $175 million, kind of like, okay, I'll have somebody else raise the kid.
Well, I guess that's the part, right? Is if you're just going to have someone else raise the kid, then don't threaten the kid that they're not going to get your money because you've been spending it on not parenting your kid.
What if I make it a YouTube ad while she's on the tablet?
No, the way to do it if you're super rich is like what they do in Downton Abbey. You have someone else raise the kids, and then they come out for like breakfast and playtime, and then they go back, and you never see them. Those kids all turned out fine.
It seems extreme to threaten your kids with, I'm dying broke, you're paying for the funeral. Like that.
It's not a threat. It's more of a warning. Start saving your allowance now because you're paying for this.
Oh, a HUD.
I think, what is it closer to, a warning or a threat? Because it seems aggressive. It seems aggressive when you're a multimillionaire making whatever it is. I mean, what's he worth? 70? How much is
170 now, Dan.
He's worth 100.
Just signed a big $100 million deal for 3 years.
What's the salary for Mayor of Flavortown?
I thought
it's a public service.
It's
really.
juicy.
Yeah, you do that job for free to serve the people.
So you make the money from lobbyists
and construction companies.
I feel like it's more than a warning. I feel like it's closer to a threat to tell your kids, I'm going to be broke and you're paying for the funeral. You're basically threatening them with dad's going to be reckless with his money for the rest of his life and you're never getting any of it.
I would say that Guy Fieri does, just off appearance alone, fit that profile. Yeah.
You think he's reckless with his money?
His shirt has flames on it.
Yeah, but he has like one of them.
He's got a beautiful house in Northern California. Also, his son Hunter's been on a lot of his shows. During the pandemic, Hunter became kind of a mainstay on Triple D's when they were doing the pandemic episodes via Zoom with all these restaurant owners. And Hunter has now come up through the Food Network, I guess, talent sphere and has made a name for himself on Food
Look at that,
Network.
doing it on his own via nepotism. That's great.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Does Guy Fieri look like he is reckless with his money? Lucy, can you give me some context for how you feel about the Ryan Day press conference sound that we're about to play?
No, I cannot. I was busy hanging out with my friend. I haven't seen it yet.
Jessica, can you give me some context here? Because Lucy was too busy not working, not preparing, trying to make friends. What do you mean? What are you getting mad? You were with your friend, but this is your wheelhouse. You and Jessica have a hit new podcast that now has a
foot.
It's a segment.
Foot.
And no foot.
Foot.
There's no foot. No foot.
Surely,
Lucy
Jessica
did what Jim Harbaugh does on National Signing Day, which is do other stuff. An interview for NFL jobs. I'm just kidding.
I feel
Michigan
like
fans are
National
so
Signing Day
mad.
means nothing anymore. Because, like, these aren't actual commitments. And then there's another signing day in the spring, and half these people end up leaving anyways.
No,
like,
these are actual commitments in that early signing day you have to send a letter of intent, which is binding. But now there are ways, as we saw with Jaden Rashada last year, you can get out of it.
then not binding.
Depending on whether or not you were lured to that school under false pretenses, you can go through a process, but it's not guaranteed. You can't just say, I'm undoing my letter of intent. So there is a process to it.
But you can also transfer now after your freshman season with no repercussions and potentially transfer more than once. So it is definitely changed in that it's not – your recruiting class isn't the end-all be-all of the amount of talent you'll have on your roster in a given season. That's the biggest change, is that you can have a worse recruiting class, but you can bring in talent and plug holes and still have a successful team.
The part that I would like some help with here, because we've been doing this in September, it'll be 20 years that we have been doing this. And I can't recall a time ever in this show's history where we have spent any time, never mind multiple segments, I'm talking about any time on the microscope is on the high school kids. We have always skipped past this day as something someone else cares about. And it seems to me both an unusual evolution, but an interesting one if college football is going to be king sport number 2 and people are going to want information on how the business is changing, because we've really made it something. Like, this part is both crass and wonderful commercially for me as capitalism. It's like, yeah, who wants to buy their way into this game? Here we go. We're starting right now. You're going to get to enjoy where the quarterback salary goes from $1 million to $2 million to $5 million. And who wants to play? The Texas A&M oil money? Is Lincoln Riley going to be exposed as an offensive coordinator? Because you got to figure out the business parts of this. You can't just run around with your quarterback. The business parts of this matter. And I'm looking at who might get ahead more quickly just simply because they're spending dollars.
It doesn't always equal success. I mean, a couple of years ago, Texas A&M had the greatest recruiting class of all time, and now Jimbo Fisher is out of a job. Especially with the portal nowadays, there has been a dilution to early signing day, but it does give you a certain amount of lottery tickets, and all you're trying to do is sack as much talent as humanly possible and hope that it gets you in an expanded college football playoff.
I love college football so much, but honestly, early signing day, this whole recruitment process, they kind of lose me on it, just because, like, I don't ever find myself that intense with, like, here's what all these 17 and 18-year-olds are deciding to do. Like, my favorite team is a school that doesn't recruit particularly well. They're like a developmental type of program. So this has never been a day that I've really put that much stock into. And now with the transfer portal, I don't even think about it.
I find it fascinating because NIL has indeed leveled the playing field in that a lot of talent is going to a lot of places. Lane Kiffin has spent 3 years trying to engage his NIL collective, and they finally made inroads, especially in the portal. You have a school like Mizzou, which is becoming an NIL powerhouse. You have Nebraska back in the game, and you have a lot of these top players not just going to one or two schools right now, so I do find that fascinating.
Is Mizzou ahead of the game now? Has Mizzou just made itself a power? This isn't one trip to the top 10. that is Mizzou a SEC afterthought now in the game
Yes.
for good because they're ahead of the game and the business of the game?
Mizzou is in a really interesting standpoint, or because the state law in Missouri is that if you go and play in state for your sport, you can earn NIL money in high school. So they have found like the perfect, just like legal workaround to keep all of their top talent in state.
Yeah, the program itself might not be ahead of the game, but the state is, and other states are envious. Arkansas basketball also has a similar situation, which Musselman just did crazy damage in the transfer portal and basically got everybody. Several things in this country depends on what state that you're operating in, and that kind of determines your advantages. So a school like Mizzou, I do think, is going to be hanging around, and it is sustainable. They got the number 2 recruit in the country, and they're linked with damn near everyone in the portal. So that's a legitimate power that's going to be second round, I think.
Let's get to this Ryan Day sound, please. And I will ask indulgence of the audience here because I understand if many of you are objecting to how much college football we are talking.
It was early signing day.
I am more interested here than I have been in a long time. But go ahead and play this Ryan Day.
Well, let me provide some context of what this is right here. Jeremiah Smith, the nation's number 1 recruit, a player whose player comp by 247 was Julio Jones. He is as can't miss as a South Florida wide receiver prospect as there has ever been. And it was not without drama last night because what we're going to play here is Ryan Day finding out around 12:30 in the afternoon that Jeremiah Smith has indeed committed to Ohio State. Now, he was committed to Ohio State throughout this entire process, but they had to fend off Miami and FSU to a degree, but FSU didn't make the table in terms of hats. And Ryan Day, you could see on his face exactly how afraid he was. Now, a fun part of this story is Jeremiah Smith didn't actually sign his letter of intent for another 11 hours. But here's Ryan Day finding out that the hat that he put on his head was an Ohio State hat.
Really?
Yes, really. It's real. Yeah.
There's pictures, there's video.
How nervous were you?
Yeah, you want to take us through your emotions real quick? You feel it?
You got to address
The floor is yours.
You got to address that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if everything's in yet. Jerry, you got to check to make sure it's in.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, you want to check with Justin?
Yeah. Before I do something and get myself in trouble.
All right. His knees gave, and he looked like he was hyperventilating, and all of that creeped me out a little bit.
Yeah.
It feels wrong.
Yeah, well, the part that felt wrong was he got a little bit of a reaction after the first knee buckle, and then Ryan Day, the performer, revealed himself. Oh, you like this, huh? Here's a little second knee buckle. Oh, what Jerry found out, I'm sure gave him nightmares for several weeks afterwards because it got really interesting after that Ryan Day moment, and Miami got really close. Miami got really close to having one of the greatest highway robberies in the history of the sport.
But it's gross. It's gross for an adult to be that happy about his career chasing a 17-year-old around trying to convince him that this amount of money is better here than that amount of money.
Does it make you
there.
feel less gross that Ryan Day isn't actually doing that much work? This is all Brian Hartline.
It's other adults doing his work on behalf of seducing kids. It's all a little bit gross.
Whoa.
Just for money, though.
Whoa.
Billy, I don't think that I would necessarily describe you as gullible, but I would describe you as generally susceptible to a social media scam.
I can believe that.
Are both of those things the same? Are you someone who is gullible about social media scams, and next thing you know, you're making a flavorless, colorless gummy bear that is twice as large as the average gummy bear because someone told you on the internet to put it in your fridge for a while with some salt on it?
Well, that did grow. It didn't grow to the size that it was supposed to, but I also took it out after a couple days because it was taking up a lot of space in the refrigerator. So, like, I'm not 100% convinced that if I wouldn't have followed that through for a month or a year or whatever, that it wouldn't have been, like, the size of a 10-pound gummy bear. So I didn't give up on that one. But Dan, I think that
you did give up on that one. Yeah. You did give up on it.
Well, technically, yes, but I wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Okay, because you haven't finalized the experiment.
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah, no, I stopped on the I got enough information on that experiment.
It grew a little, not enough for your liking, and you just gave up on it. You will never go back to that experiment again.
Well, I don't know about that, but I also know that I don't rule what goes on in my refrigerator. And when I'm taking up a substantial amount of space with this giant Tupperware filled with water and a tiny gummy bear in it, and I'm told we need room for milk, then the gummy bear has to go.
So the Tupperware that you put the gummy bear in was for something 8 feet by 8 feet because you never knew.
Well, it's
how
like a
big this thing could
turtle.
be.
Yeah, it's like turtles grow to the size of their like aquarium or whatever, like the size of the thing that they're in. I don't know if you know that about turtles, but if you keep a turtle in a small thing, the turtle will stay small. If it's like in a big open thing, the turtles can keep growing. So I thought, you know what? If I want a big gummy bear, I'm going to have a giant home for this gummy bear.
It sounds like you have a pretty generally plentiful fridge if it doesn't have room for some gummy bear experiment. Like that your fridge seems like it might be fuller than my fridge.
Well, I mean, because I don't like going to the store often, but I have to buy a lot of milk for children. So, like, I'll go and I'll buy, like, 3 things of milk, and I'll keep them in there. Because if not, I'm at the store every, like, 2 days to get milk. So I just, go to BJ's, load up, because it's like $1 cheaper at BJ, save $3, probably spend $6 in gas to get there. But I save the $3, and then I fill my fridge with, like, 180 gallons of milk, and then I'm good. So I had to get rid of the gummy bear. So what you're asking me about, Dan, is that it seems like my phone's been listening to me again and says there's a sucker born every minute, and that sucker is Billy Gill. And I'm interested. I haven't committed to this yet, but I'm interested in this puzzle that's out there. Guys, there's this puzzle out there that when you build it, it's a QR code. And when it's built, you scan said QR code, and it tells you how much money you've won because every puzzle is a winner. The $1 million puzzle. It's actually called the $2 million puzzle, and then I went to the website, and the maximum prize is $1 million, which I don't understand why it's called the $2 million puzzle. So it's this puzzle that you go and you buy. I think it's like $29 if you buy one or like $19 if you buy one. But if you buy it in bulk, you're saving money. And then when you build it, you're winning money. So it's a whole thing. Now, here's the thing about it. No one's won the $1 million yet because obviously you're not going to ship out the $1 million puzzle right away because then no one's going to buy the puzzle anymore, right? I'm starting to think that most of the puzzles are like $1 puzzles. But then you could buy like a variety pack that's like a 4-pack or a 20-pack or whatever. And I'm starting to think that in those packs is where you could like slowly win like, oh, I spent $60 on puzzles. Here's a $3 winner. Here's a $7 winner. And you still don't get the $60. Now, this is my challenge to the $2 million puzzle. I'm interested in this, but as you've pointed out, I'm a bit skeptical. I think Tony has heard about this too. I'm sure he might be skeptical as well. I'd like the $2 million puzzle to send us a puzzle worth like $50,000 that we can then scan and see, look, it's not just $1 winners. And then I feel like it's a good business investment for them where they'd have us, credible people, vouching for them and their products saying, you know what? Look, Billy won actually $50,000. Like the winning puzzles are out there. He didn't win the $1 million. That one's still out there. But send me $50K, $75K in a QR code puzzle and I'm good to go.
According to their website, there are 2 puzzles with $1 million inside, so I guess that's why it's the $2 million puzzle. There's one with $500,000, 2 with $250,000, and so on until there are 597,720 puzzles with $1 inside.
Okay, credible people is what you called us while dressed the way
I'm a newsman.
You guys
We're in suits.
Are. I do like the evolution of the puzzle to have a a prize that is money. I did not know that the puzzle could evolve. Puzzles made a comeback during the pandemic, during the isolation of the pandemic, right? Puzzles made a comeback as a business. I do like the idea of adding money to it. You add some technology to it to modernize it. But if you make it all $1, that's not going to work. It's got to be more random than that. There's got to be bigger prizes more often.
Dollar doesn't scratch my itch, Dano. But you're talking about 500 grand? You're talking about $1 million? What if the puzzles went up in pieces the more money there is? So there's like $1 million puzzle, but it's also 1 million pieces.
Well, then
would you do it?
Yeah, you'd buy the $1 million
I
piece.
love
Would
that
you do it
idea.
though?
Yeah, I would.
How do you put $1 million piece puzzle? Like, where do you put it in your backyard? You're just like building it?
Well, the birds might eat some of the pieces if you do that. Do you guys do the very elaborate scratch-off games? Like yesterday I came home and Lehman was doing scratch-off bingo.
Wow, there's a look into your future.
How does that work?
I have no idea, but it looked very elaborate. I love scratch-offs. I recently won $50 on a scratch-off
Take
ticket.
me now.
Can I explain to you, Jessica? Lehman is a sweet, creative person, and he loves the outdoors. Your future is possibly a fisherman coming from outside doing scratch-off things with his night times, and that being a wild elderly romp for him.
This was in the middle of the day, Dan. He loves scratch. He gets me a scratch-off like every time we go to Publix, which, like Billy was saying, is like every other day. But he loves scratch-offs, and recently I feel like this was a little bit of like, I guess, good karma, you could say, because my grandma was looking for pork neck bones to make her gravy, her Sunday gravy, when I was with her over Thanksgiving, and we couldn't find them anywhere. I called 8 different butchers to see if they had pork neck bones, and all they had were occasionally beef neck bones or no neck bones at all, but she needed pork. And so I kept calling, and finally I found a Publix a few miles away that had pork neck bones. So we went and we got the pork neck bones after stopping at all these different butchers, calling all these different butchers, and she was so happy. And we were like, wow, I can't believe we found them. Let's get a scratch off. And so we got a scratch off, $50. Boom.
Wow,
You paid for all those neck bones.
Did it pay for all the pork neck bones,
Yes,
or
it
were
did
they more
pay.
expensive
Pork neck
than
bones,
that?
not very expensive.
Not expensive.
Except for the stock.
Billy, what just happened with you and Jeremy?
We're doing a lot of math back here to figure out exactly how much money this company is making by selling these puzzles for $30 each. And then we're seeing, what if we buy a bundle for $125, we get 10 puzzles, how much money they're making if everybody buys a 10 bundle, and how much money they're actually giving away. Lots of math is being done back here.
I was hoping in our previous incarnation of developing a company that has its own following.
That would give away puzzles?
And I was hoping that advertisements and sponsorship opportunities would make an appearance like that organically, where you're telling the puzzle company, hey, you want to advertise with a group of people who tend to support what it is you're advertising? I've got the team from Anchorman here, and they're ready to advertise on behalf of your puzzle. But where's our sales staff to do that? Why aren't we aggressively doing that?
Where's David Sampson?
Where can you guys get the puzzle that you want that makes you $50,000?
Well, there's no $50,000, so we'll have to settle for the $100,000. Yeah, because we're not going to 10. That's silly. Not for sale for $10,000.
Our show's relationship with sales is always, why don't they give us money? We like the thing. We talked about the thing. Give us money.
That's right.
Guys, there's only 3 hours before the delivery cutoff for Christmas on this puzzle, so we got to get this going right now. Feldman,
let's go. Let's do some moving or some shaking. Let's make something happen here.
Get me a puzzle, Feldman.
I have not yet caught up to the most recent episode of Hard Knocks. I have enjoyed Hard Knocks, but what do the group of you do with the following? Tyreek Hill came here to get stardom and to sports wash some of his past, and he's largely done that, where he is a star, talking about him for MVP, and very few people bring up horrifying details about his domestic abuse past. And it seems like sports has moved on to celebrate Tyreek Hill for being super fast. And we moved on like him fast. And
yeah, because he scored a lot of touchdowns.
That's right.
And now he's being featured on Hard Knocks, which you can also find on Max, just like us.
Yeah. That's correct. And as he's being featured, the one I saw, I haven't seen the most recent ones, was a very loving look. The optics were chef's kiss on what I would want. If I were his agent or anyone who cared about Tyreek Hill, that's what I would want. Go into his living room, watch him connecting with his new bride, tell the story of love, and don't touch too much on anything from the past. But now you're seeing reports of 2 paternity suits, 3 children in this year, and 7 children overall. And I'm asking you genuinely, as this whole climate of media and documentary changes so that the access, what you get in exchange for Tyreek Hill and access to him, is you're going to tell the story the way he wants it told, the way the NFL wants it told. But what do you do with those headlines up against?
Just learning about these headlines, by the way. It's not something that I've even seen on social media. I don't really do much because, I mean, what I do with paternity suits is I let those things play off. I think very much that falls in line with private life. If there was illegalities involved, I think that is worth a discussion. But he's newly married too. I think when we apply context there, that matters. I don't really have much to say about Tyreek Hill in this latest news stream. I have, as someone that's experiencing this from afar and seen plenty of people, how can you not root on this offense? And he's at the forefront of it. A lot of people forgot. A lot of people who felt strongly about the Dolphins' reported pursuit of Deshaun Watson. And not that these are the same things. Are cheering on Tyreek Hill as he rushes into the end zone, being faster than everybody else. It's just fandom.
When I see these headlines, though, and I see the Max story, one of them seems true, the other does not.